Okay, so for this video, we're going to go over the second part of the digital illustration. So the first part, again, we laid out some basic layers. We stopped with a basic color layer we just created. So what I'm going to do now is actually start putting in some of that basic color. So first thing I'm going to do is go Control plus to zoom in so I can actually see where I will be painting. Also, when you do this, it's going to seem a little bit weird, but we're actually not going to start with detail. We're going to start with the big areas of color. And I'm also not going to be too worried if I make mistakes, because I can always go back to this layer and then delete things out. So over here, you'll notice you have your brush window. It's not active until you actually come down here and click on your brush tool. So again, it sets the brush. I am going to start with kind of a solid one. It's going to be basically have a solid hardness. If you want to, again, you can always come in here and make adjustments. So you can always pull back, change things, so on. You'll also notice that on the top, you should have also another separate menu, which has like size, the blending modes. And again, we'll get more into that. But to start with, I'm going to now come down here, choose a color. So since this is a hibiscus flower, I'm going to start with kind of a yellowy orange as my base. And again, when you're not using your brush, if you click there, it goes away. So remember, this is a brush, so you can use your bracket tools if you do need to make it bigger or smaller. And again, I am going to be using my mouse, so don't feel you have to have like a tablet to do this. So again, what I'm doing now is just laying out some of that basic color in the flower. And again, I'm not too concerned that I'm covering over parts of my drawing, because again, I can always put it back up. And again, I'm just kind of going in here, roughing out the basic colors. Right now, I'm not too worried about things that kind of correspond to like angles of which I'm making my brush strokes or those kind of things. Because right now, all I want to do is get a starting point with some basic kind of flat color. You know, some people, if you want to, you can come in here, add other colors over the top. But right now, I just want to get the basic kind of like shape filled in of the flower. So as you see, as I'm doing this, I'm not too overly concerned that if I don't exactly fill an area, it's just fine. Because again, I will be coming back in and adding more color to this. But again, that first point, I just want to go in and lay down some basic kind of colors to start with. If you're getting antsy because you can't exactly see the image, you can always go in here, flip the opacity down a little bit so you can kind of see where you're putting your marks. Just remember though, you do want to make sure you want to bring it back up for your final one, just so you have some solid color. So there's like the basic, color of the flower. So the next thing I may do is add a little bit more of a secondary color. So I'd make a new layer. Again, you don't have to mark your layers. I like to just like keep track of them. So for this one, I'm going to go with a little bit more of kind of that red orange kind of blush color to it. So this one, I'm going to lower the flow a little bit, pull back on some of the opacity, just so that yellow then also comes through. And again, right now I'm just kind of filling in that little spot inside the flower. And again, as I do this, since I'm doing this in separate layers, it does make it easier. go back in and kind of like fill in little mistakes. This one I'm being a little bit more kind of deliberate in terms of where I'm putting, like how I'm laying out my marks. But again, I'm not overly concerned. Because right now the main focus is not detail. Again, it's just getting kind of a roughed out structure of my flower. And again, if you notice, I did kind of deviate slightly from the mark. If you need to, again, just come back in with your eraser tool, take out what you don't want. So again, it doesn't look like much, but again, part of this is just to get the start of roughing out where things are going to be.